hold me hostage because I don't care, child. The world gonna just have to end today. What's up? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be giving a spoiler-filled review of the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin. Now, I had really no interest in seeing this movie. After the movie Old, I said that I would never watch another M. Night movie ever again for the rest of my life, which was a bit dramatic. But nothing about this preview or premise really intrigued me. If I didn't have a movie review channel, I would not have seen this movie. Like maybe like one day when it was free on TV or something, but I definitely would not have gone to the movie theater. If you are not familiar, Knock at the Cabin is a movie about a family who end up in a home invasion hostage situation while on vacation at their cabin. We have Eric and Andrew with their daughter Wynn. We also have Dave Bautista, who plays Leonard, who holds them hostage, the family hostage, along with Sabrina, Redmond, and Adrian. You might hear my dog playing with her toy. Now, the main plot of the movie is Leonard and crew trying to convince Eric and Andrew that the apocalypse is upon us and that their family has been chosen to willingly sacrifice one of the three in order to prevent the end of humanity. It was super easy to see that Eric would be the weak link and would be convinced in the end. Like, I literally sat there and looked to my left and I was like, he's the weak link. Really, child, he was convinced from the very beginning is how I feel. While Andrew thought that the people in the cabin were targeting them for being gay or just flat out delusional. Now, one thing that I really didn't care for was the fact that they were so focused on whether or not there was any validity to what Leonard and crew was saying. And for me, the validity of the situation isn't the point. I don't care if the world ends. I'm not killing my family. Period. When Adrian is like, my son will die if you don't choose. I'm just saying, like, hold on now, child. You throwing your son at me saying that if I don't kill my family, your family gonna die? Like, I didn't understand what type of like push is that supposed to be. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think it made sense. Don't hold me hostage because I don't care, child. The world gonna just have to end today. Humans have been cruel and evil from the dawn of time. I mean, animals are suffering because of humans. The earth, like, you would be hard pressed to convince me to save goddamn humanity. I'm sorry. Now, oh, and Leonard tells them that at the end of the world, their family will be the only survivors if they don't choose. So I would be like, okay, cool. I will live in a post-apocalyptic world alone with my family. It irks me that the family was not responding how I needed them to. Once all four intruders successfully break in and have the two husbands tied to a chair, they start introducing themselves as if we are all like just at our local bowling team. Like, I didn't understand. Child, I would have been like cursing them niggas out. I am not sitting here listening to you. That scene was so weird. I would have dropped so many FUs. Leonard periodically turns on the TV, right, so that the family can see the destruction that's happening, and he tells them to watch. There's when he tells them, like a part when he tells them to be quiet. I would have been yelling and screaming, I am not cooperating, I'm not watching, I'm not being quiet. I don't know, I just felt like the family wasn't really doing what I needed them to. I was wanting them to like fall, break the chair, try to get out of the ropes, do something. Then while Sabrina started talking, I would have been like, first of all, black lady, why is you him? This is white folk crazy. So apparently Leonard and crew are the four horsemen of the apocalypse, child, and periodically one of them has to die if the family does not make a decision. Each time one of the horsemen die, a plague comes. Now, I didn't know that a plane crash was considered a plague, but whatever. Redmond goes to die, right, and he tells them, look at me, don't you dare look away. Bro, F you, I'm not looking. I don't know. I felt like they were a little too compliant and just not as weirded out as I needed them to be. Now, Andrew has a gun for protection, right? But it is outside in the car. Baby, if you have protection, then I'm gonna need you to have it inside the cabin with you, first of all. But anyway, Eric sets up a distraction with Wynn after she gives him a butter knife from when she was eating breakfast, right? Now, Andrew ends up using this to go out to the car because he got his hands loose from the rope. But Sabrina comes after him. Now, we are outside in the freaking open, right? And somehow he let Sabrina get close enough to him to hit his leg with a weapon. I was so confused why we couldn't just fight this woman the 2 times we were in fights with her. Each horseman came with some crazy behind medieval looking weapon. Now, y'all, please tell me why Andrew gets outside by himself. Sabrina isn't here yet. He goes past the trunk to the driver's side just to crawl in the car to the trunk to get the weapon. I was so confused. That felt so freaking stupid and made absolutely no sense. Why would you bypass the trunk? Because Sabrina was not hot on his heels. She wasn't outside yet. He just passes the trunk to go into the car to go to the trunk. I didn't understand that. Then, while he's trying to get to the trunk, he's trying to load the gun. She breaks the glass. She's hitting him in the ribs, and I'm like, bro, kick her. I was like, what in the world? But he ends up able to get the gun, and you would think, okay, movie over. But no, because they're idiots. While outside, Sabrina runs off when he has the gun. Andrew gets back inside. Now, Sabrina runs at him inside. He shoots her, right? Leonard is distracted, covering her face because she's the next sacrifice, and anytime one of the horsemen die, they put some white cloth over their face. Child, while Leonard is covering her face and getting ready to chop her head off or whatever, Andrew and his family are just sitting there. I was so frustrated. I would have grabbed my family and made a run for it while he distracted with old girl. That irked my nerves so bad. Yeah, the tires are flat, but I would just run. He's distracted. We have a gun. No one's holding us here. Let's get out. But they don't. So anyway, Andrew decides to force Leonard into the bathroom, right? First of all, I wouldn't. Second of all, who wouldn't shoot Leonard and wound him so that he can't come after us? That was literally my first thought. After closing the bathroom door, they hear glass break. Again, who cares? Just run. So, we have a gun. I don't know. Most importantly, how in the hell is that huge behind man going to fit through the small behind bathroom window? Y'all know the window before you close him in there. I would have heard glass. I wouldn't have cared. Leonard was hiding behind the shower curtain, obviously. And Andrew just has to pull back the curtain because we're idiots. So, of course, Leonard gets the gun and says that he will shoot Andrew to keep him from leaving the cabin because one of the rules is that no one can leave. Which didn't make any sense because essentially you only need 2 family members, right? One to die and one to kill. Wynn ends up escaping at some point in the movie and Leonard goes after her, but it really made no sense because she's 8 years old. We are obviously not going to sacrifice the 8-year-old, and the 8-year-old is obviously not going to be the one to make the decision or to kill anyone, but whatever the hell. Something else that really annoyed me were these meaningless flashbacks. We have a flashback of Andrew and Eric at an orphanage adopting Wynn as a baby. We have a white man and a white man and an Asian daughter. We can deduce they adopted her. We can edit this scene out of the movie and it would not have made any type of difference. We have a scene of them getting to the cabin and Andrew jumps in the water, right? And Eric is worried about a rusty nail and He has to take the time to take off his shoes and stuff before jumping in the water. They have a flashback scene of the couple at a bar with Andrew telling Eric that he's a stick in the mud and sucks the fun out of everything, and Eric telling Andrew that, you know, he has a temper. Again, a pointless flashback. You can show us, don't tell us. We could see very clearly the differences in the couple and their personality traits. We could see easily that Eric was the more cautious, stick in the mud one, and Andrew was the more brazen and fearless one. We did not need a scene with them literally saying to each other the traits that the audience was capable of picking up on all on our own. Andrew also mentions that Redmond is the same guy who assaulted him at a bar for being gay, right? He says that Redmond isn't the guy's real name, that is actually like O'Connor or O'Brien or something like that. But anyway, he ends up getting the guy's license from his wallet and proving that he was right. And this is, in fact, the same guy that assaulted him. So why did we need the flashback of Redmond assaulting him at the bar? Y'all already, we already got this. We didn't need that. Of course, in the end, Eric sacrifices himself and tells Andrew to kill him while Wynn is up in the treehouse, child. So Eric talks about some vision of Wynn all grown up and her and Andrew together all happy and smiling. But that doesn't make any sense to me. Strangers broke into y'all cabin when she was 8 years old. She watched 4 people murdered, or maybe not visually watched, but she was there. She heard, she was around it. And then her parent killed her other parent. That is all pretty much traumatic. She's not going to just be smiling and happy-go-lucky and well-adjusted. This is M. Night, so from the time I saw the preview, I, of course, was like, I bet they're going to start feeding into this or believing this, and one will kill the other and it'll be revealed that it's not real, or there'll be some twist. Like, it's M. Night. So I just went in expecting some twist, right? Expecting for something to not be what we thought it was. But that didn't happen. The 4 horsemen were not delusional, and this was all very real. Overall, I was just really bored, but it didn't give me the headache I thought it would. But I almost would have preferred one of those M. Night, annoying twist, convoluted story, because this story was so freaking dull. Knock at the Cabin is a well-made movie objectively, and I am pretty sure there is an audience for this. I am sure a lot of people likely enjoyed this movie. I just didn't, and I'm not sure what the point of the movie is. They didn't convince me that humanity is worth saving. Eric says how each person of the 4 horsemen represents humanity, right? Like, Redmond was malice, Adrian was nurturing, and I can't recall the other 2, but I really just got no moral or point to the story. I am still not sacrificing my loved ones for mankind. Sorry, I'm not. So, don't hold me hostage. And for me, I don't care if it's real or if it's not real. That for me was not the point. I will say that when it comes to M. Night, I either love his movies or I absolutely hate his movies. And I prefer hating them than how I feel about Knock at the Cabin. This movie did not elicit any type of strong feeling or reaction from me. This is way more of a straightforward story than I would expect from M. Night Shyamalan. And that is actually what I have wanted for him. But child, don't give me what I want, I guess. Everything was very anticlimactic. Now, I will say the performances were really amazing for the most part. Dave Bautista was pretty freaking brilliant. Great actor, very talented. The family were all really great in their roles. Redman had really small part as the first to die, but what we saw from him was really freaking good, and I would actually like to see that actor in more stuff. He was really interesting to watch. Really, the only person I didn't like was the girl who played Adrian. Now, M. Night typically can annoy me as a writer, but I have always liked him as a director, but I hated him as a director in this one. I hated it was some good shots at the beginning, but I hated all of the constant super close-up shots of the cast. Why the hell was everybody's face all up in the camera? It was giving me a headache. Then there was a scene with Bautista and Andrew, I think it was, where like he wasn't moving, but the camera was moving and it was like super close. I don't know. I can't really remember, but it annoyed me. I was so sick of Bautista saying, "Will you make a choice?" I'm sorry, maybe that's just me and my personal pet peeve, but I hate having the same line just consistently repeated. If you take a shot of alcohol every time Bautista says, "Will you make a choice?" you will likely end up with alcohol poisoning. I'm not religious, but I would have appreciated something a lot more, I don't know, passionate, daring, thought-provoking. I got no real sense of the Four Horsemen, who they are, why they were doing this. Redman had a terrible attitude. Adrian was just weird. Leonard was giving me serial killer vibes. He was just so like calm and like cool. But I mean, I would have liked more of a deep dive into saving humanity despite our flaws and the conviction that the Four Horsemen would have needed in order to do this. Instead of the pointless flashbacks of the family, maybe some flashbacks of the Four Horsemen. We are told in the movie that they all had visions and went online and found each other, right? But we could have used some flashbacks of them maybe wrestling with the visions that they were having, maybe at first not believing, or I don't know, something. There was no real, I don't know, character development when it comes to the Four Horsemen. No real like arc for anyone really, in my opinion. I can't believe I'm saying this about an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but we needed way more kind of twist and turn. Not necessarily like a twist per se, but we needed something, I don't know, like just more intriguing, unexpected, something to blow you away. It was very one note. The story is very straightforward, but that's fine. It's very bland. We didn't necessarily need, like I said, like a twist, but we needed some type of up and down like flow to the story. I needed the Four Horsemen characters to be way more fleshed out. It is said in the movie that the family like needed to see them die, right, to feel their deaths. I felt nothing. I didn't care one way or another what happened to any of the Four Horsemen. And that strikes me as odd, because this is the type of movie that I would presume is supposed to elicit some type of emotion, or, you know, strong emotion from the audience. Those deaths should have been impactful, and I just did not have that experience. Now, I am always the person who wants gore and gruesome death scenes, right? But I actually think the look away, just seeing blood pool, shots for the deaths work in this type of story. I don't think we necessarily needed any explicit kill scenes for a story like this. I don't think that's the focus. Per se. As far as visually, I feel like the impact is supposed to be more emotional, so we didn't necessarily need the visual. I do get that violence is a part of the situation, and it's a part of the impact of the weight, you know, of that violence on the parents, whether it is the violence in the cabin with the Four Horsemen, or, you know, the violence that they see on the news from what is happening in the world. So maybe that violence did need to be gruesome, or maybe the look away shots, I don't know, maybe they didn't work. Maybe seeing the violence would have worked better. I just feel like a story like this didn't necessarily need gore for the sake of gore. But maybe if we did see the violence, then the death of the 4 horsemen would have had more of an impact on me. I don't know. Maybe that would have elicited a stronger emotional response. I feel like I just don't care for the folk in the cabin, the 4 horsemen, but I would be more likely to care or have an emotional response about random innocent people in the world who didn't, break into my cabin and hold me hostage. So maybe more, explicit scenes on the violence and deaths that were happening outside of the cabin could have worked. Overall, Knock at the Cabin is pretty lackluster, a very tame story. Absolutely nothing stands out. No boundaries were pushed. I'm pretty sure in a few days I won't even barely remember the movie. I have no issues with a single setting movie, but I feel like when you have that, you really need to keep up the momentum when it comes to the story and characters. But this movie really had no momentum to begin with. I have to give this movie a 4 out of 10. It wasn't terrible. It actually started off pretty, enjoyable. The only thing of note or enjoyment really were the performances. I honestly never really have paid much attention to Dave Bautista. He's not really an actor that I dislike, nor is he an actor that I like. I'm pretty indifferent when it comes to Dave Bautista. I just don't pay him much attention. But man, is this guy freaking talented. The little girl, the guy from the new Matrix movie who played Eric was really good. You could tell that all of the actors are super talented except the girl that played Adrian, and put forth a lot of effort to give us some really convincing performances. Look, I'm sorry, I just really didn't like the actress who played Adrian. She made me really not like the character. I just didn't like her. Maybe I'm tainted because I just saw her in another terrible performance from that movie. What was it called? Torn Hearts. But I feel like she just was really lacking. I don't know. That scene when they are first in the cabin and introducing themselves, the unease of that scene, Dave gave nervous, he gave on edge, appropriately, and Adrian, the girl played Adrian, gave weird, socially awkward, I don't know, just bad acting. But outside of her, the performances were all really great. Dave was freaking brilliant. I don't know why I've never paid attention to that guy, but unfortunately the material is just extremely lacking. Look, it's not terrible. It's well made. It's original. It isn't the run-of-the-mill movie idea, but I just didn't enjoy it at all, and I expect to feel way more passionately about an M. Night Shyamalan movie, even if I hate it. His projects always just tend to pull really strong reactions from me. That wasn't the case. This was just really blah and humdrum. I feel like a much better final act could have really saved this movie for me as far as, my experience. If that final act was a lot better, I likely would have enjoyed this movie because it starts off just fine in the first act. I wanted a much more jaw-dropping, climactic, big ending moment. Honestly, I wanted an ending where the world ended and the family was walking the earth completely alone. Maybe it's just me, but with a story like this, I want a much more daring and dark ending. With the movie as a whole, I was not on the edge of my seat. I wasn't particularly intrigued. Really, I was borderline, just didn't care. I honestly I spent much of the movie, I was literally in the theater like this. Literally, that's how it was for a majority of the movie. For one, the family's reaction just really felt so unnatural to me. When the people first get in the cabin, But they set everything up pretty well in the first act, but the movie just ends up not really being as clever as I thought it would be, not as interesting as it could have been. And that final conversation between Eric and Andrew when he decides, you know, this is real and to sacrifice himself, honestly, it felt a bit rushed. I don't know. I just feel like it didn't give what I needed it to give. There's a lot to wrestle with, a lot to grapple with a situation like this. There's a lot to explore that I just felt like wasn't explored. But I can see a lot of people enjoying this movie. So if you had a different experience than I did with this movie, let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Knock at the Cabin. Or if you had the same experience as me and you felt like, mildly entertaining but overall lackluster, let me know your thoughts on the latest from M. Night Shyamalan. As always, thank you for supporting the channel, for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.